and we're really happy to have with us today Luis Duarte and Mafalda Vasquez from two wineries, Herdade dos Grous in Alentejo and Quinta de Valbom in Duoro. And we have along another special guest, Gwendolyn Alley, who is a wine writer. She's in Ventura, California. She also is a professor. I'll give you all a chance to introduce yourselves one by one. Before we start, let me just see if there's anyone else who I can let into the room. So we have a couple of people on. For those that are on the Zoom, feel free to show your video. It's I don't know, how big the group will be, but certainly we'd like this to be interactive. Gwendolyn will be moderating and interviewing Luis and Mafalda, and we'll also be tasting their wines. And but we do want to make it interactive, so feel free to share your video. If you have a question, feel free to write it in the chat or just unmute yourself. So I think we could probably start. And maybe I'll just turn it over to you, Gwendolyn, if you can tell us about yourself, and then maybe give Luis. I know you'll be interviewing Luis and Mafalda, so you'll give them a chance to talk as well. So.
Sure. So I met Sheila in Los Angeles in 2019 at the Vin Italy Ambassadors course, and was super excited to find out that she was importing all these amazing biodynamic, sustainable, family owned, ran, just awesome wines from Italy, and now from Portugal and other places. And 2019 also was the year that I competed in the US for the US wine team at the US Open, and took the team to France, and we competed there in the World Blind Wine Tasting Championship. So I didn't know that I was very good at tasting wine blind, but I taste lots and lots of wines that I write about for my blog, Wine Predator. I write newspaper columns or newspaper articles and other content. Taste a lot of wine, write about a lot of wine. It's amazing opportunity to be here today with.
See, your partner in crime is on the Zoom too.
Oh, really? Hi.
But you're kidding.
So
I'm here but hidden.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so Sue and I tasted these wines last night, and she took a lot of the port home with her. But anyway, I was going to say that it's really great to be back in the Alentejo, even if it's virtual, because in 2009 I was able to visit for 10 days. And I attended the Born Digital Media Conference in Lisboa, and then we went out into the Alentejo, and what just amazingly beautiful countryside. So happy to be there virtually, and hope to get there again one day soon. So hola and bom dia. So we're here today with winemakers.
Sheila,
is it? I guess it's Gwendolyn must be frozen. I was wondering if I was frozen.
Okay. Yes, she's frozen.
Yeah. It must be her Wi-Fi.
Yeah, probably.
So, oh wait, we have someone else who is. Hey, Sue.
Hi.
So yeah, Gwendolyn's frozen right now, but what I will do is I'll give Luis and Mafalda a chance to introduce themselves while I see Gwendolyn got off the Zoom, so I'm sure she's going to be joining shortly due to technical problems. So, Luis, why don't you tell us about yourself?
I'm a winemaker in Portugal. I started in '87 working winemaking. I studied in north of Portugal in Vila Real, university, one university that we have in Douro, a wine region very famous that produces port wine. And I study in this university, and when I finish, I start working in '87 in Alentejo. And in this time, Alentejo was a very small region. We have some very recognized producers, but a few, perhaps 5 or 7 producers in Alentejo. In '87, now we have 222 different wineries. Alentejo increased a lot during these last 35 years. And in the end of the first company where I worked, I started to give consulting, winemaking consulting, and after in 2004 I started this project where we are now, Herdade dos Grous. And Herdade dos Grous, it's a project that started in 2004 with more or less 1,000 hectares for Portugal, and for Alentejo it's very big. And in this land we plant 133 hectares with vineyard, with vines, and we have olive oil trees too. We produce our olive oil. We produce meat from cows and sheep, and we work with cereal fields. Yes, we produce food for the animals, and after in 2012 we start to think start in another regions, and we bought Quinta in Duoro, Quinta de Valbom, and in this moment we have 50 hectares in Duoro, in Quinta de Valbom. And
so maybe I'll just stop you for a second, so we can show the map of what you were just talking about. So so where Luis, you are now, and Mafalda is Alentejo.
Beja, yes, in this area, yeah. South of Portugal, very close the border with the Spain, and the climate is during the summer is a little bit dry and very warm, with good nights. The nights are fresh, and the temperature decreases a lot during the nights, and this is very, very important for the ripeness. And Douro, in the north of the country, our country, we have the Quinta de Valbom. Yeah.
Okay. And Mafalda, can you talk? Just give a quick intro about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So hello everybody. Well, I'm Mafalda, and I'm winemaker also here, and working with Luis Duarte in both states. So also I studied winemaking in the same university as Luis Duarte in Douro Valley, in a small city in Portugal called Vila Real. And then I was traveling a little bit around the world to make some practices and to get more experience in other countries with other cultures. And since 2015, I've been part of the team, the winemaking team at Herdade dos Grous and also at Quinta de Valbom. And yeah, it's been 6 years now, working in two really different wine regions with different approach of winemaking. But it's been actually a really exciting experience to have the chance to manage and to produce wines very different, but having this wine regions is really interesting, and it's really it's really important for winemakers having this two different realities in our daily life, actually. So yes, it's a brief of my my experience.
So Mafalda, you were saying you mentioned briefly that you worked in many different places, but from if I remember correctly, you went to school in Duoro. That's in the north of Portugal on the map we were showing before. And then you went to work in Australia.
Yes.
That was your first job. And then you went to work in Chile.
As well.
And then you went to work in France. No, Italy. Italy was in there, right?
Yeah.
Italy, then Chile, and then France, and then Portugal.
Yeah, correct.
So why Portugal last?
Well, it wasn't last. It was actually the first. My first vintage and harvest was in Portugal, and actually I was an intern for harvest at Herdade dos Grous back in 2011, and then I started traveling around. But then, well, we are Portuguese and we have our culture and our roots are here, and it was really important to come back. And well, I just got the opportunity to work in such an amazing estate with great wines, with a lot of reputation in the national, but also in the foreign markets. So it was a chance that I got. So I thought that it would be better take this opportunity and start to work in a estate and in a winery like Herdade dos Grous, and of course Quinta de Valbom as well.
Yeah. So so I also learned some background about Luis. So Luis, where were you born?
I was born in Africa, Angola, in '66, and during this time Angola belonged to Portugal, was a colony from Portugal, and after in '75 we did the independence, and because the war, my family needed to come back to Portugal, and when I come back, we go to live in north of country, because the family, my grandparents was from this area, north of Portugal. And because this, perhaps I start to live in middle of the wine business, and with my friends that work with wine, and has some properties in Duoro too, and produce wine, and because this, perhaps I choose to study winemaking. In Africa, I remember, and perhaps I believe this influenced my decision working in agriculture, because my grandfather the big farm, and I remember my playground was a state farm, and all my holidays, I spent a lot of time with my grandfather, and I remember very well. And perhaps this contact with the land helped me to have a decision for study winemaking and work with wines. Yeah.
And then you're, if I understand correctly, when you went to university in Duoro, you were part of the first class that
yes,
that had, let's say, a specialization in wine, right?
Yeah. Yes, I'm the first class, from the first class. Before our class, all the winemakers or not study for winemaking or studied outside in another university in France or in the US and another place, not in Portugal, because before this we have not
The degree.
this degree, yes, yeah, and this was very important for my life too, because after this it was very easy to find a job. And I remember I have 2 days in my holidays, 2 days free when start my holidays, because after these 2 days I received a good proposal for start to work in Alentejo. And it's funny, nowadays I believe it's more difficult, but when I finish, because we are not winemakers in Portugal, and a lot of different companies from different regions looking for winemakers, and it's for me very easy and to find a job. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And can you let's say talk a little bit about Alentejo? I'm just going to show a slide so that way you see what Alentejo is like. So again, this is for everyone watching, this is the southern part of more southern part of Portugal.
This photo is from our farm, our estate, Herdade dos Grous, and it's a good photo, a nice photo, show very well the landscape that we have in Alentejo with the, what do you say,
with a flat.
Flat, yes.
Flat with small hills somehow, where the landscape looks all over like that.
Yeah. The landscape always has a big trees that produce, some of them, these trees produce cork, and in this photo don't appear, but it's very common to have these big trees in middle of the vineyards or in middle of the olive trees too. It's very traditional too in olive trees in Alentejo, and it's a fantastic region with a fantastic potential. Very new, the region produced wines from 2,000 years ago, but with a small production, and only in these last 30 years, we feel that Alentejo start to develop, and now we produce more or less 100,000 tons per year. And we have 22,000 hectares of the vineyard. Yes.
So basically, 2,000 years ago, Alentejo was a large wine producing area, and then it stopped, and then it only really restarted 30 years ago. So what happened? Why did
happened a lot of things in 75. Before this, because the characteristics of the soils and the potential that the politics in this time looking for the Alentejo, they decided a long time ago to planting. To produce cereals and for produce pão, ajuda-me.
Bread. To make bread?
Yeah, to make bread and to produce food for the animals. During this time, Alentejo always to be considered a cereal region, not a wine region, and we saw in the past a lot of olive trees too, and some vineyards, but in a small scale. After, since the last 30 years ago, and I believe because the education changed a lot, and we start to have winemaking education in Portugal, in Vila Real. And because this, I believe, the Alentejo and all the Portugal developed a lot in the last 30 years. So yeah, 30 years.
And can we see the wine you're drinking?
Yes, I drink Herdade dos Grous white. This is from 2019.
Just come back.
2019, and is a white wine that we produce in Herdade dos Grous, and we the blend that we use for this wine are three very traditional autochthonous grapes in our region. Is Arinto, Antão Vaz, and Gouveia. Very strange,
so
I believe, but very typical in our region, in Alentejo. And this wine is fresh wine with some minerality, and each one of the grapes that enter in this blend has
Important role.
an important role, yes. Mafalda, explain a little bit about each role each grape has, please.
So the Antão Vaz gives some of the aromatic profile that we find or that we can find on this wine. The Arinto gives this kind of minerality that Luis just told us about, and some acidity, which also promotes the freshness of the wine. And then the Gouveia, it's really aromatic as a grape as well, so it gives more the aromas and the fruit forward flavors that we can find on the wine. So I think all of them, they have different roles, and they are all important to get the final blend and to make an elegant and fresh, crispy white wine.
So Gwendolyn, good to see you back. So can you tell us what you think of the wine?
The first one, the white wine.
Yes, yeah.
I'm trying to get. Yeah. So, oh my gosh. Well, there's not a whole lot left. So, yeah. Usually when we're tasting and we're sampling, we're professionals. You have a little bit, you swirl it around, and we were in love. Oh my gosh, we just clearly could not get enough. And Sue's like, we have to put this away because otherwise we're going to finish this and you won't have any for the chat in the morning. So we had it with oysters. And we pair a lot of different wines with oysters, and this is fantastic. This is one of the best oyster wines we've had.
Thank you.
It has so much lemon, such bright lemon, and the minerality that it just really
I think we're losing her again.
The oyster was super creamy and rich, and this was super bright, and we're just...
Maybe a good idea could be just only use the audio. I don't know if it will be working. No, we just lost it.
Yeah, she is off the Zoom now, so but we at least we got her opinion on the wine. So
She's back.
and did you ever have it with oysters?
If I remember, no, but after listening that, it can be a good one, a good option actually. With seafood for sure.
Yes.
With oysters in particular, I don't remember. But
yeah. It's a good idea because the wine has salinity, very important, and I believe this help pairing very well with the oysters. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Gwendolyn, just so you know, because I'm sorry, Gwendolyn's having a power issue at home, so that's why her internet.
Our power went out, so our internet's unstable. It's tied into my phone, and usually that works, but it's just not quite powerful enough to handle this Zoom. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately. Oh, and here's Southern California Edison calling to tell me something. So
okay. So so let's if you can tell us a little bit more about Herdade dos Grous, and because from what I understand, you don't just make wine. Right?
Yes.
You're a farm.
Yeah, we produce olive oil too, vegetables. We have 110 hectares with olive trees, and with olives we produce our olive oil. We have 3 different olive oils, 2 monovarietals, one with Galega, another one with Cobrançosa. These names are the name of the olives. And we produce another one that is a blend with 3 different olives: Cordovil, Cobrançosa, and Galega. Okay. Yeah, and
we sell olive oil too. So next time I import in your wines, I'll import in the olive oil.
I think you know that you saw the image, never. So our olive oil, no, perhaps no.
Oh. No, I never tasted it.
Okay,
yeah. But I'd love to, because we just like we introduce new types of wines to people, we also like to do the same with olive oil.
Good, good. And we produce meat too. We have cows and sheep, and only for meat, not for milk. And we produce more vegetables
and
fruits and tourism. We have a restaurant, we have a hotel here inside the farm. The farm is very big, 1,000 hectares for us in Portugal. Is a very important size. And we have a big dam with 83 hectares, and that we use for irrigate these cultures. And the farm is beautiful, and I invite you when you have possibilities for visitors and to know better the region and our state. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Gwendolyn actually spent a good amount of time in Portugal, so more than I have. So let's move up north, and I'm gonna go back to share my screen, and let's go to Duoro. So this is gorgeous.
Yeah.
That's this is the Duoro Valley, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, correct.
Mafalda, explain a little bit.
So is this where basically winemaking started in Portugal?
Yes.
I would say in the world, actually.
In the world, yes.
In the world.
Yeah.
Wow.
Not in the world, but historically, the first wine demarcated wine region in the world it was Douro back centuries ago. So we used to say that this was the first proper wine region producing wines in the world, actually. So yeah, exactly. And of course in Portugal is one of the most traditional ones and the oldest ones as well. So, and it's also from the region that port wine is produced, and it's of course a really important region for the country, but also for the world, I would say. I think I'm able to say that.
There's a lot of tradition
Yeah, exactly.
associated with it. I noticed even just when I was working with you to import in the port, that there's a lot of rules.
Yeah, still very, very protected product for the region and for export, and all the rules that still nowadays for such a different and particularly wine. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So, and this is a smaller winery compared to Herdade dos Grous, right?
Yes. Yeah. So
In the vineyard,
well, nowadays in the vineyards we have almost 50 hectares, which for Douro Valley it's already a good size. I would say a big size for Douro. But yes, of course, comparing to the area that we have in Alentejo and to the amount of wine that we produce in both estates, of course, Douro, Quinta de Valbom, it's the smaller producer. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, Gwendolyn, how's your internet? Do you want to take over, or you want me to?
It seems my connection seems a lot better right now. According to Edison, I'm not the power company. I may not have power until 2:30. So both the internet and the power is I mean, the internet goes out when the power's out. So anyway, I can take over. I mean, I seem to be hearing everybody pretty good right now. So I don't know, where are you?
So we already tasted.
Do you want to start tasting these wines, the Quinta de Valbom, and then and then Gwendolyn, I know you have a number of questions, so then we can we can use the time then to kind of backtrack on some of the questions that you wanted to ask Luis and Mafalda.
Okay. Because my internet was so unstable, we'll see. Sorry. I mean, can't do anything about it. So did you want to move on to the first wine from the Douro then?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is a second wine. It's Quinta de Valbom. It's a 2013, and it's a red field blend. A lot of these vines in this wine are super, super old. And as a field blend, there's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and a little bit of a whole lot more different grapes. So these 100-year-old vines were traditionally grown together to make port, but Luis, decided to make a dry red wine, and I thought that would be really interesting to learn more about that decision-making process.
Okay, we use the same tanks that we use for make Porto since a long time ago. They make maceration with the feet, and we use the same because we use same tanks in granitic, and I believe this help the structure of wine, and is something very typical and traditional in the region. We ferment until the end with the contact with the skins. Before start of fermenting, we select with a table tree the berries, the best berries, and we start macerate with a planche that is very traditional in Douro, and after start to fermenting, we change the maceration by feet. Okay. And when finished alcoholic fermentation, we press with a very, very old vertical press. And the barrels, new barrels, and another part second use barrels, and aged during more or less 12 months. And after this, we finish the blend and clarified wine and the bottling wine. Yes. After this, aged during more or less 1 year, and go to the market. We start to release the wine in 1 year after the bottling, more or less. I can say it's good. I don't know if you have this possibility, but I can say it's very, very good. If you want.
So this is a 2013 vintage.
Yeah.
And so how long do you usually hold on to it before you release it? I mean, it's what a pleasure to taste a wine of this that's older.
Yeah.
Well, of course, it depends of the structure of the wine or the potential of the wine. And what we found in Douro, comparing to Alentejo, it is that the wines, they are, of course, and this came from the winemaking process and the fermentation that we used in or follow in Duoro. It's much more it's not much more extractive, but the way the feed throat and all the process makes the wine really powerful with a lot of tannins. And we just thought that maybe it would be better to keep the wine for more time before release to the market. So the first vintage, we wait more or less 2 years before release to the market. And we made the same with 2013. And we keep doing the same because we actually believe that these wines, in particular, Quinta de Valbom, they are not wines to drink when they are young. People will not take the advantage and, as you said, the opportunity to drink the wine in a good shape, if I can say like that. So we do prefer release to the market when the wine is already ready to start to be drinkable, and the people can figure out that there's a lot of potential to keep the wine as well. So this is being our strategy for Douro wines. Yeah. Of course, comparing to Herdade dos Grous, which is another world.
Another reality.
Yeah.
So what are some of the grapes in this wine? I'm guessing Touriga Nacional is a main one. I mean,
Touriga Franca, Tinta Roriz, Tinta Amarela, Tinta Barroca, Francisca, a lot of different grapes. Sauzão too, yeah. Alicante Boucher appear in some blends or field blends appear in Douro too. Alicante Boucher, it's more traditional in Alentejo, but sometimes appear in Douro too. And a lot of grapes. We make a study when we bought the farm estate, and we found the 24 different grapes in our vineyard.
So yes, it's an actual blend of traditional grapes from Douro.
May I ask a question? So how do you decide what grapes to use for this dry red wine and what grapes to use for your port?
We don't decide in Douro. We have not this chance for decide about the which grape we use in a wine, because it's a field blend. In the same block, we have 20 different grapes, and we cannot segregate. We decide for thinking in terroir, thinking in the local, and we decide because we have a big story now, and we decide the wines from Porto are the wines from old vineyards, more old, because we have some vineyards with 100 years old and another ones with 35, 40 years old. And we decide the more older, we have 13 hectares, and part of these more older vineyards go to the Porto, and another part go for our reserve, our econ wine from Duoro, and the vineyards with 35, 40 years we use for Quinta de Valbom. We decide thinking in exposition, thinking in local, in terroir, and not in grapes, because it's all a big mixture with the grapes. Yeah.
So, Luis, you clearly work with a lot of different grapes, both white grapes and red grapes. You named a lot of them that are in this field blend, and some are in Alentejo, some are in the Duoro. Can you tell us, do you have favorites?
Yes.
Favorite grapes to work with?
Yes, I'm sure. In Douro, it's difficult because the reason that I gave you, because we know which grapes are better or not bad or worst, but we cannot work alone with one grape. In our estate, there are another estate in Douro that they planted separate grape by grape. In our case, not, because when we bought the vineyard is very old, and but in Alentejo we have a lot of different grapes, and we work much more with Portuguese grapes. And thinking in Portuguese grapes, my favorite grapes for red is Alicante Boucher in Alentejo, and for white it's Arinto. It's a fantastic grape with a good acidity and very well integrated in Alentejo regions.
Yeah, and the Arinto was a big component in that white wine, right? Yeah. As well as entourage. Yeah. And the other one that you mentioned, I'm not that familiar with, and that's the red that you mentioned. What can you tell us a little bit more about that wine? That grape?
Alicante Boucher?
No, the other one I'm trying to find.
Tinta Miúda.
Yes, that one. That one I'm not familiar with.
No, Tinta Miúda, it's same Graciano in Spain. They call Graciano, and we call since beginning Tinta Miúda. And I consider very, very important for us because of a good acidity, and in a warm climate like us, like our, the acidity is very important for create wines with elegance, and Tinta Miúda always has a pH very low and good acidity, and I like, and Mafalda I believe too, like Tinta Miúda is a good grape for us. Not very typical in Alentejo. We start to use perhaps 10 years ago, and I influenced a lot of people because I'm the first winemaker who used this grape in Alentejo region, but nowadays there are a lot of hectares with Tinta Miúda. But since beginning, I love this grape, and it's very, very important for us to give this freshness and this acidity. Yeah.
So my mouth is watering for port right now.
All right. So let's, I was thinking that maybe we should try the port, yeah?
Yeah.
We have the Quinta de Valbom LBV 2012.
This is not hours, but I guess that you just put hours inside, right?
No.
And it comes in this gorgeous box, really beautiful presentation.
Thank you.
You open it and there's, it's has some of the story on the inside about it, and so it makes a really nice gift box.
Thank you. Thank you. Mafalda, you can.
So one of the things that's interesting about this wine is that it's a late bottled vintage, and if you can explain what that means a little bit.
Yeah. So just started from the beginning. In port wines, we have two big categories. One is the Rebby, and the other one is the Tawny style. And on the Rebby style, we have two big names: the Vintage, which is the more prestigious and also the more classic category. And then we have the late bottled vintage, which is the one that we are tasting today and the one that we produced in 2012. So the big difference between these two subcategories are actually the time that we take to bottle the wines. That's why the name came late bottled vintage. So for the vintage, we ferment the grapes and we produce the port wine, adding the spirit. And we have to bottle the wine after 2 years of the vintage. And for late bottled vintage, we have to wait 4 years after vintage date to bottle the wine. So that's why they look very like a red table wine in terms of color, because they don't age too much in an oxidative way. And they actually are bottled quite young, comparing to the Tawny style. And well, this one, as you mentioned, is from 2012. So we pick the grapes during this year, and of course during the harvest period, not along the year. And then we ferment it with a lot of maceration. It's important for the port wines, getting a lot of maceration in the very beginning, and especially if with the steams, which is very important to get the acidity well balanced with the sugar. And afterwards, we have the spirit to stop the fermentation, to keep the sugars. And of course, that's why we have a high alcohol content on this kind of wines. And yeah, afterwards, we just decide the type of aging that we prefer. And in this case, we bottle after 4 years, sorry. And we just release the wines afterwards. So those are like the main difference between the two styles of port wine and on these two categories, vintage and LBV. I don't know if I answered your question correctly or that I was supposed to be.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna make a couple of comments because Gwendolyn, I'm not sure if your internet's working okay, but I did when I had some people try your port recently, they were amazed at the tannins. So can you just comment on that? Is that is it typical of port to have as many tannins as this wine?
Yes, well, especially when they are young. Yes, I mean 2012 for LBV, it's a young LBV. So it's, and as I said, because we fermented with the steams, we also get the higher content of tannins, which of course it's important to keep
For the longevity.
to keep the wine and to give them the potential to be aged for longer. So it's another thing that I forgot to mention before, it's the ruby style. They are bottled very young, but it was supposed to keep them in the cellar for years. That's why it's so common offer vintage date to someone who is celebrating like 50 years old, because it's now time to start to drink this vintage. So yeah, it's very important to have these tannins and the acidity when the wines are that young to keep their longevity for years, actually. So this is very, very important indeed.
So how long can you age this port?
Well, you can actually forget your bottles in the cellar and open when you have a grandchild or something like that. Of course, you can drink it when they are young, as we are doing today, but this kind of ports, they are actually, that's why we've been found a lot of old, very old ports nowadays that are just lost in the people's cellars, and they are good. They are actually very, very good. So I cannot answer correctly the years that we can keep it. So you can keep it forever.
This style of port wine that Mafalda refer, it's very, very important to have a big, good structure for keep the wine with safe during the life. And another style of port wine, tawny style, and there are fantastic towns with 10 years old, 20 years old, 30 years old. But this style of wine, we oxidize the wine before bottling the wine. And we oxidize because we maintain during the 10 years, sometimes much more, aging in the barrels we call pipas. And with these barrels, the oxygen enters into the wine, and this way wine develop and oxidize, and we only bottling after this good oxidation, if you want to call. But in this style, ruby style, the idea it's bottling the wine with all potential that the wine has, and for drinking. This is our culture, but in the US, some years ago, the consumers start to drink vintage style, ruby style, very, very young. And is not a problem, but it's something for us strange and surprise us, because our vintage and our LBV for US, and very good for us, start to sell very early. And nowadays, for example, and these results, in my opinion, because the wine spectator, wine enthusiast, Robert Parker, start to give good rates for this type of wines, this vintage, and the people don't wait, looking for the rates, and I want to buy, I want to drink. And in the past, and in our culture, it's very difficult to open a vintage with less than 20 years old. And I know in the US, some friends, sometimes they comment with me, I taste a vintage from 2011, and for us it's very strange, I open vintage from 62, 73, and when I listen, yesterday I opened a bottle from 2011, always, because our culture, we think, oh, but it's so early. We believe that if you wait more 20 years, your experience, I'm sure it will be different, but it's different culture. We cannot change this.
Well, Gwendolyn, I'm glad your power's back on. Uh-oh, is she freezing again? Oh no. You're like a phantom, Gwendolyn. You're there
I
and then
know.
you disappear.
Well, I just because I was using my phone and that was not very stable. So
Yeah, that's fine.
so I just switched to the Wi-Fi in the house, so it should be
Yay.
like it should be. So okay. You know, this is a good day to have a really nice port around.
Good.
Yeah, yeah. And I just want to point out that a lot of people think about port as a winter drink, you know, and it's by the fire and everything. And I hope it's not sacrilegious to say, but it's really good over ice cream.
Mhm.
Really?
Also, yeah, you can also put an ice cube in it.
Ah,
And
yes,
and
yes.
it's super, super good and refreshing in, you know,
yeah.
when it's warm. You know, it's not like you're going to sit by the pool and pound these or anything, but on a warm summer night, it's really, really nice whether you have an ice cube or you just have it at cellar temperature. You know, so again, people think of port as being just a wintertime, but it can be an all year.
Yeah.
Especially one like this one that, as you were talking about, has so many tannins to it. It's not a syrupy, sweet drink that people might think of. You know, when you have port of this quality, it has a structure. Sue and I actually did a port pairing dinner where we had a bunch of different kinds of ports, and Sue researched and found recipes that paired with the different types of ports, used the different ports in the recipes, and it was a whole port thing. It was amazing. It was pretty incredible. So
Nice.
so let's so one of the things about a wine like a port, it's at the end of the meal, the end of the day, you know, it's reflective, so it made me think about, as you reflect on your long career, Luis, you know, what are some of the things that you've accomplished that are meaningful, but also what are some of the things that are still challenging and that you're looking forward to? And Mafalda, you're at the beginning of your career, or, you know, early on in your career. So, you know, if you could reflect a little bit about where you want to go with your career in wine.
So should start Luis or myself? I think we should
No,
start.
I am very quickly, and after I give all the time to Mafalda, but very quickly. It's a good question, and it's funny to thinking how we change our ideas about the career and about the future. Nowadays, my goal, if you want to call, is to make something beautiful, nice, but with a sustainability ideas, organic thinking in what I need to do for the best in a local where I live, what I can do for the people that work with me, what you understand? I don't want to feel older guy, because I don't feel older, but changed a lot. Some years ago, perhaps I think I would like to make a fantastic wine. I maintain this idea because, you know, it's our, we only think we are winemakers and we think a lot, but nowadays I give more value to produce with sustainability, protect the environment, protect this planet, and permit that the new generations has the same potential or the same condition that I had during my life, you know, because it's something so horrible what we did in the past and we continues to do, destroying our planet without, you know, the fires in California, all the problems that we listen. And I believe the wine cannot to be so reductor that we only think in ratings. And you know, for me it's much more important nowadays, and I need to agree that I changed, you know, because some years ago, I think to win the best winemaker of the year or something, and I don't say yet because your internet don't work and you don't ask me, but I won 3 times the best winemaker in Portugal, and nowadays, you know, it's so different, and I work much more with the things that really are important, you know, and not because all the other things happen one day. We still very, very happy, you know, but the day after we forget, and in the end of the day, what is the important, you know, it's important for our ego, but you know, we don't left nothing. And I believe I would like that people, when think about me, think with these good things and not, oh, he make good wines, you know. This is basic, is something nowadays is so easy to do this, you know. It's much more important to have a good team, good and protect this planet, you know, because this is, in my opinion, very, very important. And you don't listen to me, but don't.
Yeah, well, maybe let Mafalda speak, and then
Okay,
you just
sorry.
got frozen again.
Because you
no, but we'll hear from Mafalda, and then I'm wondering, did you get a chance to talk about WASP, about the sustainability program?
Not yet.
Not yet.
So that's, I mean, that's part of your legacy as well. So maybe we'll return to that topic in the 3 pillars, because it's so important and such an important part of what you've done and what the winery is about too. So
after as you said, of course, my early experience, it's just like that, of course. But actually, in 10 years of experience, I'm actually feeling like a lot of things happen and change in my behavior, and also in the feelings that I have to my job. And of course, I think when I was a student, my goal was only be a winemaker and produce very good, top quality wines, and selling them abroad, and all of this, you know, all of these points that old people, of course, want to achieve when they are working with passion and with good energy. But actually, and the last couple of years, I think, and of course the last year, it's becoming more and more conscious for us, and myself as a millennial. I think we've been more conscious about all of these questions related to the environment and to the kind of consumer that we can be, or the kind of consumption that we usually do. And taking this to my work, I think it's very important to keep this in our path, and keep these goals also pairing with the first goals that I had as a student, as a winemaking student. And if we can join all of them on the same bowl, I think this will be great to not only show good wines or good top quality wines, but also to feel, as Luis Duarte said, feel that we are doing something that the next generation will be grateful that somebody was taking care of the land, of the resources, of the way that they produce were really interesting and really careful and attentive to these questions. And at the end of the day, we can go home and we can sleep very well. And I think it's the most important thing. So of course I'm really young, and hopefully I still have a lot of things to do in my life. But as soon as I have these pillars to follow, I think all of us actually will be on the correct way, actually.
And you're referring to the 3 pillars of the WASP program, which is the wines Alentejo sustainability program. So can you talk a little bit more about those 3 pillars and your role in this program?
Yeah, yes, if you want to call names, we call environment. It's very, very important, and inside this pillar, we need to think about soils, we need to think about water, about pollution, about energy, about biodiversity. Yes, there are a lot of things, and in social we need to think about our
employees,
the local where we
are located, and all the people around.
And finance and governance we need to think about, because not possible to have another 2 pillars if we don't want money, but we need to earn money in the best way, not only thinking, in money. And we start to change this a long time ago, and we work with the people in our region. We work if I need to decide if I choose employee from our region, from another region. I'm sure I choose from our region. We need to feel very well integrated in our local, in our region where we live, and we prefer always to buy all the things that we use for winemaking in the region. It's very important to help to support the region, and this is a way that for the social pillar we try to help to contribute. The internet is bad.
Oh no. Well, that was a really good explanation. I think that gives us a good picture of what not only the winery, both wineries stand for, but also what you stand for professionally and personally. And I think that's it's a theme that as an importer and someone that sells wine around the US, it's a topic that keeps coming up more and more often. So that's very commendable and smart that you have that focus. So I think that we will probably have to stop. Unfortunately, without Gwendolyn. Oh wait, here she is.
Coming to say bye.
Because I know it's late for you, and also for me too. So, but thanks so much for your participation today. We really appreciate it. Next time we would love to see your the vineyards live, maybe even in person. But by the way, I read that Portugal is one of the most popular destinations right now for Americans. So with things starting to open up post pandemic, that it is a destination that that Americans will be coming to. So they should definitely stop by both your wineries, Herdade dos Grous in Alentejo and Quinta de Valbom in Duoro. And as I've been mentioning in the chat to those listening, and is that we sell Quinta de Valbom and Herdade dos Grous wines across the United States. We sell to wine stores and restaurants. We also seek distributors state by state as well to help make these wines more easily accessible to consumers wherever they are in the United States. And then we also sell them online on our website. So that's verovinogusto.com. And so thanks so much for participating. Thank you so much, Gwendolyn, even though you're not on the Zoom right now. And then we'll talk soon. You're going on vacation soon, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
in next week.
Good. Okay. And then after that is harvest, right?
Yes.
I'm ready for harvest.
Yeah.
Well, enjoy your vacation.
Thank you very much.
We'll be in touch.
Thank
Yes.
you.
All right. Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.